going on YouTube? Simantaris here, starting my next video. I'm calling it Lucky13, and it's going to be my take on the countdown videos. As the title can suggest, each video I'm going to be counting down 13 of the top, whatever the subject happens to be. I'm actually opening up with a three-parter I'm entitling Chair Slappers. For those of you who have not heard the term before, Chair Slapper, noun. A technique, tactic, or other move in a game that, while entertaining and often useful, does entitle your opponent to slap you out of your chair for being that much of a jerk. And I'm starting up with a three-parter on the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. For anyone who doesn't happen to know, Yu-Gi-Oh is a manga written and drawn by Kazuki Takahashi, eventually adapted into an anime, with several sequel series that all came over to the US under the same title of Yu-Gi-Oh! Takahashi's original idea, according to himself in interviews, was to create a typical shonen anime series, but instead of fighting, the hero would resolve conflicts by playing games. Basically, instead of a martial artist, he was a gambler, with supernatural Egyptian magic powers. It's complicated. We'll get into that later. What I'm actually going to be talking today revolves around the sequel series, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist, focused almost entirely on the, at the time, fictional card game of Duel Monsters. The Duel Monster stories proved to be so popular that eventually Konami bought the rights to Yu-Gi-Oh! For the purpose of actually creating a card game. And to that end, I will be counting down the top 13 spells, traps, and monster effects that are basically giving a giant middle finger to your opponent. Doing research, by which I mean going through simply my own collection of several thousand cards, yes, I'm a nerd, I discovered there are far more than 13 contenders, so I'm breaking this up into 3 videos, one for traps, one for spells, and one for monster effects, each containing my personal favorite screw-yous from each category. And now that we've gotten the backstory and introduction out of the way, my move, and I draw. Number 13 in the trap card category, Trojan Blast. Situational, yes, but extremely funny when it works. The effect of this card is when your opponent uses one of their card effects to steal a monster from your control, you can destroy that monster and damage them equal to its attack power. So, sure, you want my Iron Knight? Here you go. Just ignore the ticking. Yeah, I got a black eye the first time this one went off. Next move. Number 12, Synchro Deflector. And also situational, but generally more usable card. This one combines the Negate Attack and Sakuretsu Armor traps in that if a Synchro monster you control has been targeted for an attack, you get to negate the attack, protecting your monster from destruction, and then destroy any monster on your opponent's field. The any monster means that you can either target the one that attacked, a la Sakuretsu Armor, or anything else that was giving you a problem. So you can solve 2 issues at once. Round 3. This is a newer one, and again, it combines the effects of a couple of different cards. Battle Guard Howling says that when a warrior monster is declared for an attack, and I happen to like warriors, so this thing always finds a place in my deck, you can negate the attack by bouncing the opponent's monster back to the hand and inflicting burn damage on your opponent equal to their monster's attack power. So you're combining Magic Cylinder with Compulsory Evacuation. And you may want to duck. Round 4. Oh, this one is funny. Anyone who played the game competitively about 4 years ago is going to remember when Solemn Judgment was the card to have. If you had less than 3 of them in your deck, don't even bother playing. And then this happened. Counter Counter is an interesting card because it only negates and destroys counter trap cards, which sounds situational until you can tell your opponent that they just paid half their life points to sit there and let you keep playing. Also, a little bit of trivia, due to a typo, this card could not be played as originally printed and had to have a ruling issued because it was a normal trap, and the rules of the game say that it can't be used against counter traps, which by definition is all it works on. So Konami had to issue a ruling saying that this was supposed to be a counter, they messed up, and all subsequent printings have been counter type. Turn 5. And let's see what we've got here. Number 9 on the list, Needle Sealing, an old favorite of mine that actually has gotten a lot more play lately with the rise of pendulum monsters. This says if there's at least 4 monsters total in play, all face-up monsters are destroyed. I will admit, this has saved my life in a few matches, and so it makes it onto the list both for being useful, nostalgic, and nobody's ever going to see it coming. Nothing like the look on your opponent's face when you just cleared their whole board, based on the fact that they summoned 1 extra monster. And number 8, the Golden Apples. This is one I was only able to use a few times myself, just because of when it came out. Golden Apple says that after you take battle damage while you control no monsters, meaning your opponent got a direct hit off on you, you heal the damage you just took, effectively undoing their attack, and then you get to summon a monster whose attack power is equal to that damage. Set this thing off after your opponent's strongest monster attacks, and you just copied all that power for yourself. Also, being a level 1 monster, it's really useful for synchro summoning with, which was probably its actual purpose. Number 7. Oh, this one. This card is a format killer because of when it came out, it could trash every single competitive deck single-handedly. And the band plays on. Played on. This card actually has 2 different effects, but they could have also written it out as a single one and had the same thing. As long as it's in play, no one is allowed to normal summon or special summon a monster that has the same level as one that's already in play. Given this was before Pendulum became a thing, the cards to have at the time were Exceed monsters, and this said no to that. Because unless you could literally summon both of them at once, you could not have 2 monsters with matching levels in play. Its only downside is it also came out at a time when there was a lot of ways to clear out the backfield, including lots of trap destruction. So, while it was a nasty surprise, it didn't see a lot of competitive play, but found its way into a lot of my decks. And let's see, we have now counted down 7. So, number 6. Old school hate right here. Machizer. This is a card that the more time went on, the more useful it became, just due to me understanding the mechanics better. Machizer says that the moment any of your monsters are destroyed, you get to destroy 1 monster on the field, assumed to be your opponent's. The funny thing is in the way it's wording. It doesn't say your monster is destroyed. It says sent to graveyard, meaning you can sacrifice, synchro, or fuse one of your monsters, and as long as it goes to the grave, one of your opponents is coming with it. Really fun way to get rid of something you couldn't kill otherwise, and a nice little surprise after their attack goes off too. Number 5. Security Orb. This is another one of those cards that combines 2 effects at once, but without actually putting 2 of them together. Security Orb can be activated when your opponent declares an attack, changing their monster to defense position, kind of like Enemy Controller or Zero Gravity. However, its main effect, and the one everybody wanted it for, when this face-down card is destroyed and sent to the grave by the spell or trap of your opponent's control, destroy 1 monster on the field. So, take your pick. Either have your attack shut down, or destroy it and lose a monster. Fun little deterrent, even if they know it's coming. Number 4. Another new card. Again, didn't see a lot of competitive play, but often found its way into my deck. Chain Dispelling. While this is not necessarily as good as Dark Bribe, Spell Shield, or anything else that can negate a spell or trap from going off, it does have the benefit of keeping multiple spells and traps from going off. If anyone is familiar with the old Chain Destruction and Chain Disappearance, this does a similar thing, but instead of killing monsters, it says that you destroy all spells and traps with the same name as the one your opponent just activated. The reason this is on here as opposed to the other two chain cards is I just find it funnier to wipe out spells and traps. I mean, anyone can kill a bunch of monsters. This says I'm not even going to wait to counter your spell, I'm just getting rid of it now. And now for the top 3 screw you trap cards, at least in my opinion. Number 3, Liberty at Last. This one is an interesting card because it doesn't negate attacks from happening, but still punishes your opponent for the attack. When a monster you control has been destroyed by battle, target 2 face-up monsters and send them back to the deck. What this means is, while I can't protect my monster from destruction, I can throw your monsters not to the graveyard or to the hand where you could summon them right back, but all the way into your deck, forcing you to draw them again. It ranks pretty high actually on usability more than nostalgia, but either way, you can just see that finger, can't you? Number 2. Old favorite of mine. Actually did see some competitive play, but generally was a undervalued card. Number 2 is the Dark Coffin. This one ranks this high mostly on nostalgia, but it's definitely useful. This trap's unusual in that, like Security Orb, its real power doesn't come from being activated, but being destroyed. If Dark Coffin is sent to the graveyard while it was face down, then my opponent has to decide whether to destroy one of their own monsters or to discard a card from their hand. Either way, I'm punishing them for thinking that they can get through my defenses. And finally, the number 1 up yours screw you trap card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Punch in the box. Or, as my friends and I like to call it, punch in the junk. When your opponent declares an attack while they control at least 2 monsters, negate the attack. Send one other monster than the one that attacked to the graveyard, and the monster whose attack you just negated loses attack power equal to the monster that you sent. So, in one move, I have stopped your attack from going through, killed your monster, and potentially weakened another one into oblivion. And this is a common. Why it doesn't see competitive play, I have no clue. It's a fun card, it's a mean card, and it probably costs you 10 cents or less. What I have to say? Maybe it doesn't fit Cosmo, maybe it doesn't fit Spell Specters, maybe it doesn't fit Pepe. Try to find a slot for it. At the very least, it's a nice casual trick. Alright folks, thank you very much. This was part 1 of, surprise, didn't see that coming, in my lucky number 13 countdowns. Come back in the next couple of days and I will have parts 2 and 3 put up, and those will be spells and monsters respectively. Thanks very much, and this is Sam Antares, signing out.